Okay, yes, please.
Question or comment in Tzvi and Daniel, mostly. The distinction between Jawhar and Arab, it may come from two sources. One of them is Aristotle, of course, and the other one is Kalam. I'm saying the distinction between Jawhar and Arab can come from two sources. One is Aristotle in the categories, the other is Kalam discussion. It seems to me that when Rabbi described Jawhar in the sense of thing that has three dimensions, I think he uses Aristotle's Maqulat, but he interprets them, at least the Jawhar, from what he knows from the Mu'tazila. Because in Aristotle, what exactly is the Jawhar? What is the Usiya? It's quite difficult, and I don't think that Jism will fit the Aristotelian discussion. It may be the whole substance, it may be the Surah, but not Jism, it's nothing that has three dimensions.
There's an important difference between Jism and Jawhar in Kalam. Because Jawhar has no three dimensions, but Jism has three dimensions.
Yeah, but if you take the atom, I'm thinking about atomistic theory. If you take the atoms with no qualities, with no a'rad, it expands. Yeah, it fills the dimensions, even if it has no qualities.
So what do you have in mind? What do you think of?
I'm having in mind, yeah, well.
Yes, please. What do you have in mind?
I'm having in mind that it's not just Aristotle; it's Aristotelian. It's Kalamic interpretation of Aristotle. That's one thing.
Okay.
The other thing
and do you know a certain source that you can?
No, but I can refer to Professor Ben Shammai's studies in atomistic. Atomism and to Pinus's.
It's the best reference.
I have another question.
It's not a question.
Yes.
On the same matter. In Pinus showed that in early Kalam you have both Jism and Jawhar. I mean, there is evidence in the sources. I don't know. I think even in Ashari, even in much later in Shahrastan, that the Jawhar is called Jism. Of course, if you call the Jawhar, the substance, if you call it Jism, it means that you believe that the Jawhar has dimensions. If you don't believe, if the Jawhar has no, I don't remember now exactly the Pinus term, but it has no dimensions at all. I mean, it's like a mathematical point or geometric point. If so, then Jawhar is really substance which has no dimension whatsoever. But it seems that at the time of Hai, for him at least, it seems to me that he was not absolutely clear about this. And therefore he says, he equates the atom of substance with Jism, and so he comes up with a kind of substance which has three dimensions. So it's somehow, how should I say? It's not clean. It's not clean kalam. It's not clean. It has something from everywhere. And this may be quite typical for Rav because I'm not sure. I even a few years ago I published an article in Festschrift for Liebes about, we don't know whether it's Rav Shrir or Rav Hai, one of them tried his hand in the translation of philosophical terms. And this is the only place, as far as I know, in Hebrew where mashal means a Platonic idea. So it's very strange. And in those circles, apparently, they're not so sure or so exact about the terminology. And because of that, it may be, I mean, he says, does he say what is he, or he says jism in Arabic. And he means apparently what in classical kalam was called really jawhar. The thing that exists by itself and does not perish even when the accidents do perish or change or whatever. So this is the classical kalamic. But you have, look, you have for the categories also, he could have known it, for instance, from Saadia's Kitab al-Amanat. There you have the list of the categories in the second treatise, where he deals with the divine attributes. And there he counts them. And there Mahiyya is very clearly, there is no jism and no jawhar, it's Mahiyya. And Mahiyya is the essence. So there really, Saadia has the original Aristotelian vocabulary translated into Arabic from the classical
But not the same
translations.
definitions.
Pardon?
But not the same definitions.
Quite similar, I think. What Saadia has is really taken from the translations of Aristotle, which were done in the 9th century or end of 9th century, probably. And this is what he uses. This is not kalam. On the other hand, Saadia does have the kalam terms of jawhar or arad, and this is very clearly the substance, the kalamic substance, the atom of substance, which apparently also has no dimensions. But as I said, in Pires' studies on atomism, we have all the varieties in the kalam.
So Aristotle and Kalam, and you miss the legal system of the Muslims, because, for example, you not always have to go to Aristotle in order to show borrowings by the Geonim, because you have to consider first the surrounding of the Muslim writings. And the writing of the Muslims, for example, take the first lecture by Daniel. They speak, if you open the Sarakhsi's Al-Mabsut, that was, I think it's 30 volumes, I don't remember the volume, but there is a discussion between him and Abu Yusuf. He brings the opinion of Abu Yusuf, the founder of the Hanafite school, and he argue with him about if you can sell something that does not exist. And it is a lot of discussion in the legal literature, Muslim legal literature, about the same issues. So why always...
Sarakhsi was before or after Haik?
Sarakhsi was, he passed away in 1099. But so take somebody else, take Kuduri's Mukhtasar. He passed away in the same time, same year of Ravai. So don't look at the one generation here or there. It doesn't. No, because when Sarakhsi argues, he did not invent his argument. He didn't invent it. It was existing before it. But anyway, why to go? My argument. Also, I have many examples with Maimonides. That people goes to Aristotle. No, I can prove you that in some cases it's not Aristotle, but it's a Muslim. It's Ghazali or with somebody else.
But Ghazali
but it's very convenient to go to the Aristotle, first of all, because it was translated to English, so it's everybody has access to read.
But maybe Aristotle was the source of Ghazali.
It was good Arabic, it was not Muslim, it was Christian translators who translated it into Arabic.
Okay, whatever. But my main argument, my general argument is that you have to follow, to examine first, not only the kalam, but because here we deal not only kalam argument, it's also legal argument. It's not philosophical argument only, it's legal argument. So you have to go to the writings, the legal writings of the Muslim, previous to Ravai, and to see them before you go back to Aristotle, because maybe they took it from Aristotle, I don't know. It's hard to decide.
I think, does it matter whether they took it directly or for other books? Does it matter?
No, I mean,
For our claim.
I don't know.
Just to address your question, I did look for similar usage of these categories in discussions about testimonies, and I didn't find them. The fact that I didn't find them proves nothing, because I'm not an expert in fiqh, and I use only search engines. But yet, if it would be a very accepted usage of differentiating between kinds of testimonies according to the categories, well, we will find it. It will come out, I think.
Just even a person like our height, or maybe his father, whoever wrote this responsible about philosophical terms and ideas and principles. I showed there in that article which I mentioned about the background philosophical sponsor, that he uses terms that are found only in Farabi. Now Farabi is...
okay.
Why okay? Because he was a Muslim? No. because Farabi read, what's his name, Usta ibn Luca, who was a Christian, and from him he knew the Arabic translation of Aristotle. And on the basis of this Arabic translation, this Farabi wrote his commentary on Aristotle. So it was one word, all these things were happened at the same time, in the same places. And the Arabic was, what I call the marketplace was open for everybody, and everybody knew all these.
Okay, thank you. Benny, anyone will answer?
I just want to say that I think it's very important to follow the argument, and I think that Avi Ram's point is well taken, that, for instance, in translating the guide, I have in mind not only the Greek philosophical sources translated into Arabic, but also, of course, when Maimonides is discussing the Mutakallamun, it is in that guise that he is taking on that Greek material. And so I think that your point is an important one. That's why in my presentation I dealt with something that is not necessarily a question in Islamic law, right? Because, as I said, Islamic law had to introduce and create this idea of doubt. So then it may seem that Maimonides is taking some directly, but where there is an intermediary with whom the Jewish lawyers or philosophers are in dialogue, then I think it is most useful for us to see that dialogue going on. I think that's, Gidon, where your contribution is coming in.
And I'd like to add something else, that I searched for the, Gidon, this is for you. I searched for the Islamic sources, and some of them quotes those definitions in the name of Aristotle. Yeah, I can discuss with you the sources, but there are several Islamic sources that quotes those definitions in the name of Aristotle. So the new, I don't know whether Rav Hai took it directly from the Kalam books or Falasifa or whatever. It doesn't matter to the claim that we want to say here. And this is another case, which sources stand
But you
on
see,
this
when
table.
you,
But this is another issue. It's not.
When we speak about comparative law is an aspect of historical. You search law by historical background. So therefore, you have to be accurate in what you argue. I mean, because comparative law, it's part of historical research of law. Therefore, it's comparative.
Yeah.
And therefore, you have to be careful when you say it's Aristotle, or it's important to say
yeah,
Aristotle,
yeah,
or Ferrari, or
It is
Louis, or
Aristotle.
somebody else.
Okay, but it is, but it's,
Ma?
It is true, it is Aristotelian. In addition, it is also Muslim.
right. But it's important to get, it's important to follow the chain of ideas, and even the language that Haggai has identified, because the same terms appear somewhere else, that's not a smoking gun in itself. That is part of the smoking gun, but the dialogue is at the level of the language and at the level of the ideas. And I think we need to be very careful to track that language as well as to track the ideas and the dialogue. And some of that is historical, who is living with, in dialogue with whom, but it's not exclusively on that level.
Okay, so now Benny is showing and Khalid. Yes.
I want to ask from a different direction, not a historical question, but conceptual. So I assume that it's quite convincing that Rav Hai, for example, is borrowing something from Aristotle or from the Muslim, never mind. And the question, what is the thing that he's borrowing? Is it terms or concepts? So, because one can argue that he borrows a concept, and therefore he has a new understanding of the Talmudic issue. On the other hand, one can argue that the concepts can be found in the Talmud itself, and the only thing that there is no accurate terms, and Rav Hai is borrowing the terms. Now, if one, for example, learns the Talmud, so of course there's no terms of quantity and quality, but if one learns the Talmudic issue like Ta'anu b'chitim v'lalo b'seurim, so the concepts, not the terms, of quality and quantity are there, and therefore one can come to the conclusion that he's borrowing only the terms for giving names for existing concepts that could be found in the Talmud itself.
Can you really distinguish? Can you really distinguish?
I think if
When
one
you
learns
borrow terms, don't you sound like
No.
what's the difference between terms and
No,
concepts.
no. When you borrow terms, it means sometimes it means that you also borrow ideas.
Yes, so this is the question. What's the difference between terms and
Okay,
concepts?
so
But if the concepts are to be found in the
I
Talmud
would try
itself,
to answer from a different perspective. That is that in the case that I've tried to show, I think it's clear that what Haggai did here was not only to call these types of contradictions in testimony with in new names, brand new names taken from. Let's take a step back. When I began my research on this passage, I thought that it was actually name dropping, because I saw no direct outcome from the use of the categories. But I tried to convince you, I'm quite convinced myself, that he actually understood the Sugya and Sanhedrin according to the concept of categories as a reflection of man upon reality, and not only upon reality, but upon his ways to conceive reality, to grasp it, and not and he differentiates it from other aspects that are also part of testimony as a legal world, and I think that this is actually understanding what he's talking about. It's not just and it's not only borrowing the word quantity for describing a certain kind of phenomenon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this goes, I try to take it to the next issue, and there it's not just terms, it's also concept. And you see how we actually play with the concept.
you see that according to, I don't remember the names, but according to other commentators, they argue that the Talmud itself leads to the conclusion of
But
Rav
not Rav Hai.
Not Rav Hai, other find it in the Talmud itself.
Yeah, and I think that even not Maimonides.
Okay.
Khadina doesn't agree with me on this point, I see, but
In a minute, yes.
So to complicate matters further, there was a Zoroastrian sage in the 9th century, Adur Fagbag. In one of his responses, he was asked if a person could transfer religious entities to another. In other words, the right for a certain religious deed. And he starts and he goes, and the answer goes into this discussion of whether or not a person could acquire something that is not tangible. And what is interesting is that he uses very similar Aristotelian terminology, which is not surprising, but he also translates it into his Zoroastrian world. In other words, he translates the notions of tangible and intangible to the terms menoi and geti, which for him made sense. Now, I think just to perhaps abstract a more general claim from what I'm saying is that there's obviously a shared Islamic Aristotelian context that is shared by all these authors. And it's even interesting how they're similarly legalizing these Aristotelian concepts. And yet it would seem like every author is translating it into his or her own terminology, right? So whereas Rav Hai and Rimi Gash, I think the other example that you gave, tries to locate a Talmudic source in order to conceptualize what Aristotle said I'm sorry, the Rif does that, right. The Rif does that, or not really conceptualize, but to concretize it, to put it in Talmudic terminology, and therefore to bring these worlds together. And we have the example of the Zoroastrian sage who does the very same thing, just with Zoroastrian conceptions. So if you would please comment on that.
Yeah, and also we said once, called my attention to Islamic source who speaks, they tell the story that you cannot buy or sell. Smell? Yeah. Okay. There's also Islamic source speaks about the same idea, but not with Aristotelian categories. So, but because
yeah, but it could always be in the background. In other words, even if the scholar does not
this
address.
This is the beautiful thing. We have all the sources, and each one try to locate the idea.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to say something about the underlying assumption of your presentation. I'm not concerned so much now with whether those notions are Aristotelian or Islamic or can be found in the Talmud.
So if you are not?
I'm not concerned now, in my comment now, about whether these notions, this concept that you used, what is their origin. But I think the underlying assumption in your presentation was that there is a pure body of Jewish norms. Pure body of Jewish norms, pure body of Jewish law.
Yeah.
And you were perplexed or concerned even about the possibility that foreign elements penetrate into Jewish law.
On the contrary.
On the contrary. Well, so what was the point of pointing it out? I mean, Jewish law is altogether an outcome of many forces, foreign forces, that impact and correct Jewish law. It's not only Jewish law. There is no such thing as a pure body of norms. I mean, I'm sure most of the people here will agree to that.
I don't know.
And wait, one more.
There is ijma.
Consensus.
There are some who don't agree with that.
No, ijma. It's
Consensus. So what was the point? And so you may say there is a policy of Haidon and those who came after him. So we have liberal judges or liberal Jews and conservative Jews. Some people will admit and speak openly about this process, and some people will cover it. I mean, that is, I think, the nature of legal enterprise in Jewish law and outside Jewish law. So if you agree with me that you do not share these underlying assumptions, I assume you are having the Jewish law is the pure body of thoughts, then I have nothing to say.
Okay. Two answers. First, why I was so astonished by Rav Hai? Because Rav Hai was well known among scholars of the period as someone who resists ideas of philosophy, maybe even theology, that depends who you ask. The most well-known source about it is when he interpreted the Talmudic phrase in Brachot. היזהרו בכבוד חבריכם ומילאו ביניכם מן ההיגיון והושיבון בין ברכי תלמידי חכמים. Be mindful of the honor of your colleagues and prevent your children from higayon. So the question, and place them between the knees of Torah scholars. What prevent your children from higayon? So there were several commentary on this. Okay, there's something I think he doesn't like my. No. Okay, here it is. I don't know why it takes time, but some say בינוק דחים היגיון, which means לא ימוש ספר התורה זה מפיך והגית בו עם העברה. היגיון, it's להגות, to meditate. And some explains that prevent your children of some biblical chapters because they're not for their age. What do you mean not for their age? Which means prevent yourself from higayon, from studying the sins of the fathers until they will go up and observe. And some chapters in the Bible they should not speak with children, wait until they will go. But Rav Hai says, מינו ביניכם מן היגיון, פירש רבנו רב hai כמו חוכמת אלמנטיקה, which means the idea of logic, which means Rav Hai was against studying Aristotelian logic. Ibn Tibon says, מן ההיגיון בחוכמה שקוראים בערבית מנטיק, and the non-Jews call it dialectical. First. Second, there's a famous letter of Rav Hai that don't study logic and this cause problems. If you will read historians dealing with this period, some of them says that Rav Hai was against studying philosophy. So we can distinguish this with philosophy, this theology. He didn't read, he didn't study Aristotle, he studied Islamic theologians, and he took the form of theology. But it's interesting that he takes ideas from logic and took it and put it into his writings. So this is, I think, something that I was surprised. Secondly, it wasn't just me, because Rav Alfas and Remigash both didn't agree with the idea that Rav Hai will take something from outside Judaism and actually adopt it into Judaism. And they search for a Talmudic sugya. So it wasn't just me that was surprised. And I agree with you. There's no doubt the Jewish law contains ideas from the biblical period to the modern period that adopted from other systems and so on. But in this point that we are talking about a problem that now we have to deal with, here also in the modern period. So if we go back and see this is a concept that was adopted, you can think about other ways or to adopt other concepts maybe to solve your problem. This is what I'm trying to say on two levels, on the historical levels and then the modern levels. Okay?
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. One announcement from unit, please. Pay attention.
Thank you. So just one administrative note. Just one administrative note from my side, if I may. Thank you. It's really great to have so many people in this room, so it's really packed. And tomorrow we will try to get more chairs in it, so it's more comfortable also for the guests who come from outside. And so we had distributed this program beforehand, also inviting, because it's in our great interest.